everyone. For this video, we're going to try something a little different. We are going to make a tassel out of yarn. Now, because I'm having to use what I have here at home already, I didn't have the most exciting colors of yarn in the world. I have gray, and I have kind of a tannish brown, and then I have a tan that's a little lighter. You can also, just so you know, you can use embroidery thread. It's possible you might have some left over from an old project, or your mom might have some from something, but as always, ask first. Don't just grab it and start making stuff with it, okay? And if you don't have anything like that at home, first of all, you don't have to do this video. It's just for fun. Or you can ask your mom or dad if it's okay to order some yarn or some embroidery thread. You can do Amazon or Michael's. But as always, if they say no, respect that, okay? Because it's certainly not a necessity. But if you have some yarn at home, it's very therapeutic. It makes you feel better when you make something like this with your own hands, and something that's, you know, made out of fibers, meaning yarn and thread and stuff. And so it's just a good feeling, especially at a time like this when we're all stuck at home and we can't go and see each other in person. So you'll need a pair of scissors. You'll need either yarn or thread or string, and then we'll get started. Okay, now the first step, you're going to need to cut 2 strings of yarn or thread. The first one is going to be kind of short, and you don't have to worry about exactly how many inches or centimeters it is. Just, you know, fairly decent length, but not too long. And then the second one needs to be quite a bit longer, maybe about 3 or 4 times the length of that one you just did, because this is going to be the one you hang it from. And you can always make it shorter, but you can't really make it longer without it looking kind of junky, because you'll see where you tied it on and stuff. So I have a pretty long one and I have a short one, and I'm just going to set them aside so they're out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to take my 4 fingers and my yarn, and I'm placing the yarn in front of my fingers, and see how I am holding it in place with my thumb. And so then I'm going to take it and I'm just wrapping it around my fingers. Okay, now don't wrap it so tight that you're hurting yourself, but it also shouldn't be so loose that it's falling off. It should be somewhere in between. And I'm going to wrap it anywhere from 20 to 30 times. You can count it if you want, or you can just do it by what's calling eyeballing it, meaning you just look at it and you can kind of tell that it's thick enough. I know with me, when I first started making these, which actually wasn't that long ago, I would count because I wasn't very confident on when to stop. But now, because I've made several, I can look and kind of know when to stop. So if you look at that, that's a pretty good thickness there. You can try to kind of picture that being a tassel. You know, you can see it's not, you just don't want it to look sickly because it's so thin. Okay, so now I am going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut that off. And now notice it is still wrapped around my fingers. All right, so now I'm very carefully going to, I'm holding it with my other hand and I'm pulling my fingers out. And if you look, it's almost like a little yarn donut, okay? And I don't want to lose that. I'm going to take the longer yarn and I put it through the middle of the donut. So I've got half of it on one side and the other half on the other, okay? Now I'm going to take them and I'm going to tie them. Now notice how I tried to even it out on each side. Okay. And I'm going to tie it into a knot. If you're not very good at tying knots yet, hang on a second, I am trying to tie this knot as tight as I can, and I'm doing it 3 times, meaning it's a triple knot. Now, like I was saying a second ago, if you're not very good at tying knots yet, it's It's okay to go ask a grown-up in your house to help you, but really watch so you can learn how to do it yourself, because you can't go around your whole life asking other people to tie knots for you. All right, so now I have my little yarn donut with my thread that's hanging. Now, exactly opposite, my knot is here, so right here underneath it, exactly on the other end, is where I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to take my scissors and I put it through the donut. Okay. Now this might be a place where you might need help with from a grown-up, depending on your age. If you're 3rd grade, 4th grade, or older, you should be able to do this on your own if you have a decent pair of scissors. If you are 2nd grade, probably about half and half. Some of you can, some of you might struggle. And if you're 1st grade or younger, you definitely want to get help from a grown-up for this step, because you really have to use a pair of grown-up scissors for this step. So I'm going to take my scissors and I cut all the way through. And now it looks kind of like Barbie's hair, very uneven though, okay? Now I'm going to take it and just kind of gather it together, all right? And this is where I'm going to take the shorter piece of yarn. I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it down flat on the table, and I'm going to take my little yarn hair thing and put it right on top of it. I'm going to see if I can somehow get that on camera. Okay, that might be upside down for you, but you can see how it's laying right on top of it. Okay, so you think of it as like a little belt. I'm lifting up the ends, I'm tying it in a knot, and I'm tying it as tight as I can. And again, you want to do at least a double or triple knot, meaning you're tying it 2 or 3 times. All right, so now here it is. It looks like a little yarn ghost. Here's the belt that I just tied. So I've got the top part of it and the bottom part. Now, you can see my yarn is really super duper uneven. So now I'm going to give it a haircut. I'm going to kind of squish it flat. And where it's longer and sticking out, I am going to trim it. And it's not one of those things where it's one and done. You have to kind of do it over and over. It's like there you can see he or she is starting to look a lot better. Still gonna trim it a little bit. Be sure you do this over a trash can or a table or a countertop, because it is kind of messy, especially if your mom just cleaned. You don't want to make her mad, or your dad mad if your dad cleans. And even it out and make it look better. All right. And now I have my little yarn tassel, and I can attach that or hang it on pretty much anything I want. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a tassel with more than one color. And there really isn't a limit with how many colors you can do. When we were still at school, I made one with 6 colors. I made a rainbow one. But just because of limited resources here, I'm going to be doing 2. But I'm going to use my tan and my gray. Now on the actual video, depending on your screen and your resolution, they almost look the same, but you're gonna have to just partially take my word for it that it's 2 different colors and use a little bit of your imagination. I wish it was something like purple and yellow and red and green, but it's not. So, you know, you get what you get. Okay, so I have both strings together. Now, first of all, I'm just gonna use one, because remember you have to do that short string and the long one. So this is going to be the shorter one. This is the one that's going to be like the belt for your tassel. And then this one will be the longer one. This is the one the tassel will hang from. And I'm just putting them to the side out of the way. Okay, now for the actual tassel, I have both pieces of yarn together, okay? And I'm going to use my fingers again. So again, I drape it over the front of my fingers and I hold it in place with my thumb. And then I'm going to wrap it 20 to 30 times. Now, depending on how many different colors you're doing, you're going to reach that 20 or 30 a lot faster because I'm wrapping 2 strings around at once. So if I want it wrapped 20 times, I only have to do it 10 because 10 plus 10 is 20, okay? So it goes by a lot faster. If you're doing like a rainbow and all the colors, you're gonna get to it really fast. And you don't wanna make it too thick because then it's just kind of, it's hard to work with that way. All right, so got it wrapped around my fingers a decent amount of times. I'm cutting it off, which is a little challenging because I'm cutting with the wrong hand. All right, and so now I'm going to carefully slip my fingers out, and once again, I have my little yarn donut. Okay, now I have my longer piece of yarn, and remember I put that through the middle of my yarn donut. I try to even them out as much as I can. Then I'm going to tie it into a triple knot as tight as I can. I can hear someone in my apartment building practicing their band instrument. It's kind of interesting how everyone's at home doing their school thing. All right, so now I have tied that around it, and I am going to cut the yarn directly across from where I tied the knot. So the knot is right here, and I'm going to cut right where my thumb is. So I'm going to take my scissors. Now again, you could try to do it with kid scissors, but it's probably not going to work very well. You'll be kind of like you're chewing on the yarn. A little stray there. I'm just gonna toss it over to the side, and now I have my thing. Now I'm not sure exactly why this happened, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now because I'll give it a haircut in a minute. But now I'm gonna take the belt. I'm laying the belt just in a straight line. I'm taking this and laying it on top of it. I'm tying the belt. So you can see what I'm doing. And I'm tying it into a double or triple knot. I'm always a fan of the triple knot. My grandfather always said a little bit's good, a whole lot's better. All right, and so now I have my little tassel. Now this one is in dire need of a haircut. All right, now again, do this over a trash can or a counter or a table. If you put a piece of paper under it, it will make cleanup for you a lot easier. But do not leave your parents with a bunch of yarn scraps all over their kitchen or living room. That would not be very nice. All right, and so now here is my second tassel. So this one is just gray. This one is gray and tan. Again, I wish I had some more exciting colors than tan and gray, but I don't, so oh well. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing, but with embroidery thread. Now this is a lot thinner than the yarn, and these little things of embroidery thread can get tangled pretty easy, so you do want to be careful. Now, just like with the yarn, first I'm going to cut a shorter one. That's going to be the tassels belt. And then I'm going to make a longer one, and I'm trying to be careful so I don't tangle it, because if I tangle it really bad, it's going to be hard to use it. So this one will be the one that it hangs from. Okay, and I've actually had this embroidery thread around for years. Never got around to using it until now, so I'm kind of excited. All right, so just like with the yarn, I'm going to put it on my fingers. Now, this is going to be a much smaller tassel. So I'm only going to use 2 fingers, okay? So I'm draping it in front of my fingers. I'm holding it in place with my thumb, and then I'm going to wrap it. Now, this is actually my very first time to make it with embroidery thread. So we are actually learning together. So I'm not exactly sure the number for how many times I want to wrap my finger. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it, meaning I'm just looking at it. Okay, so now I'm looking at that, and that looks pretty decent. Give it a couple more little wraps. Now I'm going to cut it with my scissors. All right, very carefully grab it and pull your finger out. And now we have a thread donut. Okay, so now I have my little thread donut. I am going to take the longer one, drop it through the middle of it. Okay, and again, try to even them out so they're the same length, or at least close. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to tie a knot, either a double or triple knot. And again, you want it to be nice and tight. This little string is trying to kind of get in the way, so I'm pulling it down. And like I said, this is my first time to make one with the embroidery thread. Everything you're seeing here is real. It's not like I've practiced it a bunch and then hit record. Alright, so now I have my string that it's going to hang from. And now I want to cut on the exact opposite end. So I've got my scissors here, and that was pretty easy to cut. Alright, I gather it together. And I'm going to tie the belt right about here, just like when I do the yarn tassels, just on a much smaller scale. So I'm laying this down in a straight line. I'm laying this on top of it, where there's more on the bottom and less on the top, so it looks kind of like a ghost head and a ghost body, for lack of a better description. I'm tying it very tight. And I'm going to do a double or triple knot. I'm going for the triple knot. Alright, there you see my itty bitty little tassel. I'm going to give it a little haircut. You hear crunching, it's my cat eating. And now I have a cute little adorable tassel. Okay, now I just made a second tassel, and I did that because I am going to attempt to make a pair of earrings. And you can see this is from my first tassel, and I already attached a little thingamabob that is the earring. This is one of those, I think they call it a lobster clasp, maybe, where it opens up like this, and you put it in your ear, and then you close it. Okay, now whenever you're wanting to make jewelry, especially if you're searching online for the stuff you need, it is called the stuff like this. Like this again is to make an earring. There are ones that you can use to make necklaces and rings. They're called findings. F-I-N-D, like find, I-N-G-S, findings. So that is very helpful to know if you're searching for that to purchase it online. I'm going to take one end now. I know it's kind of gross getting the end wet. If you want to be a little more sanitary, you can go to the sink or get a little cup of water. But I slipped it through the little hole there. And I'm pulling it all the way through with the tassels right next to the finding. And I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to tie a knot. 1, 2, and 3. All right. And then I'm going to trim that off. Okay, now it is attached to the little finding and all trimmed up. As you can see, I already have one in my ear. Putting the other one in. Obviously, you have to have pierced ears for this. And now I have my tassel earrings. I feel so fancy. So they would make a good gift. Make these for your mom or your grandmother, or your sister, or your aunt, or your best friend, or your teachers. And they would love that. So have fun and be sure if you make one to show me on Flipgrid. Thanks.